I see a Budweiser. Go ahead and hold it up.
Yes. There's
that was
our
the biggest clue.
Yes, right
Doing
there.
it for Dale.
Man, it's so many gimmicks, right? I feel like they're making it a lot more complicated than it needs to be. I mean, a lot of people, you get polarizing opinions on DRS.
I know you guys know exactly what I'm talking about here, but sometimes the effort, it's all about the boys. You know, like, hey, you know, life sucks sometimes, and you need the boys.
iRacing kind of always has a tendency to kind of buff the new cars just a little bit. I'm not going to go on record saying it's because they want people to spend money on their platform and buy all the new content.
Confirmed.
But
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Formula Vee Weekend Warrior Series. This is the Racing Line 70 coming to you today from Brands Hatch. My name is Ron Maunz. Joining me in the commentary booth and also in the virtual production hauler is Tim Cox. And now, Tim, considering you are the resident Brit on today's broadcast, I want to ask you about this track, your thoughts on it, and your expectations heading into this 30-minute race.
Well, excellent question, Ron. Excellent question. Well, it's up there in the top 6 circuits in the UK. The other ones being Silverstone, Donington, Snetterton, Thruxton, and Knockhill. Bit of a theme going there, yet they're all in the UK. But that aside, no, great circuit, this one. Great to hot lap in random combinations. The Lotus 79. The LMP2, you can, especially around the back of the circuit, you can absolutely nail those things around there once you've got the tyres up to temperature. But it's Formula V's tonight, Ron. Bit of a difference, you know, no downforce, no power, essentially just using third and fourth gear because second gear will kill you in this car. But it's always great racing from the low-powered stuff, and I don't think it's going to be any different tonight otherwise.
Well, it certainly is going to be exciting. Hopefully we don't have any spins throughout this race, as we just have here in this practice session that we're still in the midst of right now. Last time out, only 1 week ago here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, we had a brilliant show at Laguna Seca. Some hard-fought racing, mainly that fight for the final few podium spots and inside that top 5. That was a hornet's nest of Formula V race cars from lights to flag. And fingers crossed we're going to get some great racing action here as well. Only 9 turns on this circuit, and really every single corner around this racetrack is different. It has its own unique flair, whether it be a difference in elevation change, the degree of the corner, whatever it may be. There is something unique on every single bend around this very historic track, which has remained roughly the same ever since the circuit opened many moons ago, Tim. I think the only one was like behind the paddock section, turns 3 and 4 on the circuit we're using right now. They kind of changed the profile of that not very long ago, but Brands Hatch, incredibly historic and some slower race cars, and with elevation change as well, I'm sure it's going to make that momentum game in these FV races even more important.
It definitely is, Ron. I'll throw you a useless fact about Brands Hatch shortly, but I'll tell you what, should we have a look at these championship standings coming to, well, really at the business end of the season, Ron, and Jesus Rodriguez has got nearly, a strong 85-point lead over Alan De Gassis. That's going to take a lot for De Gassis to try and undo that and haul that one back in. And then there's a 100-point gap between De Gassis and Brewster. So those top two are pretty much cemented in those positions. And same with Brewster because he's got a 120-point lead over Guido Mazzucci. Fortolo, he's in 5th position with Jason Justice Green. Zerbs and Overstreet. So big old names there down further through the field. But it's looking like our top 3 pretty much already cemented at this stage of the season. But still got plenty of racing. That can change across the course of the remainder of the season. into Spec 2 now. Of course, only Spec 1 and Spec 2 in this series, and it's Michelle Lynn who leads that one. But unlike Spec 1, Ron, we've got a much, much tighter points differential at the top. This time, it's only 13 points to Gary Walbot, who's in second place. Jason Grider, well, he's 130 points behind those top two. So it really is business matters at the front end of Spec 2. Grider's got, well, just shy of 50 points. So, well, more like 40 over Brian Hansen in fourth, who's only 4 points over Hank Kamel in fifth. Michael Lazaro is in sixth, but only 2 points ahead of Andrew Love. That'll be an interesting battle to go for the rest of the season. Fitzgerald and Human are separated by a point for eighth, with Wayne Buttermore rounding out the top 10 there. But I think that's timed very, very nicely, Ron, because the session just clicking over now, and I'll get started with qualifying very, very shortly.
Yes, we are, and unlike the other Weekend Warriors series that air every single weekend here, every single Sunday for that matter, here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, we don't have an open qualifying session, just 15 minutes for these drivers, 4 laps at their disposal, and it's a somewhat short lap, it must be said, compared to some of the other races that we've seen this season. Pretty quick lap times thrown in the practice sessions. Alan DeGassis actually led that at a 1:43.682, so we'll see if he can convert that pace into this qualifying session. One thing that should be noted, of course, with a closed qualifying session, all the cars having the track to themselves, don't have to worry about drafting or traffic of any kind. These drivers just have the track all to themselves. We'll just have to wait and see how things shake out in this qualifying session. 15 minutes in length, as I said. Then we're going to head our way into a 30-minute long race. We won't have to worry about pit stops or fuel or anything of the nature. It is just 30 minutes of heart-pumping racing action. And as you point out, going over the championship point standings, Tim, it has been a really up and down season, and we still have a decent amount of racing left to go. I believe we will be covering the season finale here from season 3 of 2024 from the Ray Esports Weekend Warriors Formula Vee series. That's a mouthful trying to say that on a broadcast. That is going to be on August the 31st in the not too distant future. Gives you more reason to subscribe here to Slow Motion Broadcasting so you never miss a thing. But as these drivers are getting their tires warmed up, they're heading through the middle sector of this lap, and 3 very fast corners own with their unique flair. I'll ask you this here real quick, Tim, as we're about to see Alan DeGassis start his first qualifying lap in a few moments' time. What do you think is going to be the most troubling corner for these drivers in this qualifying session and in the race as well?
Oh, good question there, Ron. Great question. I'm going to divert the point by just saying hello to everyone over in YouTube, and also those watching across on the Slow Motion Broadcasting Twitch channel. For me, it's turn 1 wrong. Just can never get the entry into that right, blinded apex, which you can't quite see. Turn 2 could be troublesome, just getting that pad up. Feels like it's an absolute age. There are a couple of trouble hot spots out on the circuit. Very Aikens really taking wide, just heading out of Clark Curve before we head down, well, one of the short straights here. But yeah, it's there are a few danger points once you start getting at the back of the circuit. Just seeing, I really want to understeer from DeGassis there. It's fraught with danger for what looks like a relatively simple and easy circuit from looking at the track map.
Yeah, there. Ooh, I nearly yanked my microphone off its stand there. Hopefully I don't do that for the rest of this broadcast, but this track has a whole lot of trouble for these drivers, and I got the fantastic opportunity to drive with some of these drivers in a practice session held late last night. And I'll tell you what, I was not very fast behind the wheel. I think the best lap time that I set was in the 1:45 range, and my theoretical best in iRacing was a 1:44.8, I believe, so not terribly bad. However, compared to some of the drivers running in this series, I was fairly far off. However, in my experience, I got to learn that there's not really an easy corner on this entire racetrack. Turn number 5, the very fast right-hander, is probably the only easy bend on this entire lap. That is pretty much entirely flat out. Turn number 1, as you expertly pointed out, Tim, that is tough. I felt like I could never get that right either. And some of these drivers are a little bit tempted to try and carry a whole lot of speed into this corner, because from my experience, hitting that curb on the outside can really keep you on the racetrack. And one thing we do have to keep in mind when it comes to this race is the track limits as well. Limiting those incident points and trying not to pick up slowdowns is going to be really key. Really, whatever track the Formula V's race at, if you get some sort of slowdown penalty, you will be in for a world of hurt. So I think these drivers, they won't have to worry about that too much in this qualifying session. Of course, they want to get a clean lap in. However, come time for the race, I think those track limits are going to be even more vital for these drivers' chances.
Fortolo's on a bit of a flyer here. Sector 1 just gone fastest of anyone once more after setting our initial pole position time, Ron. Just wait for Sector 2 to come through. Actually, no, sorry, not an improvement there. As he heads through the back of the circuit, and this is where you mentioned about those track limits becomes oh so crucial, taking plenty of that curb through the outside there. Just waiting for the Sector 3 times and 4s. I'm not sure after that electric Sector 1 whether this could actually be too much an improvement for him. I mean, what a time. 7 tenths faster than Lynn, who's put in an astounding time herself as well to go second, and provisional front row with Tullow at the moment. There you go, Sector 5. It's gone purple, fastest of anyone. Just this run to the line run. This could be an even faster time from the Japanese driver. What's it going to be? Not too far away. There it is, cutting the timing beam. Jesus Rodriguez displaces Lynn, going up into second place, and it's a faster time, 1:43.97 from Tullow.
Very good lap time. Did that actually stick, though? Did he have some sort of off-track excursion during that lap that may have invalidated his lap time? He's still listed, at least from my perspective, on the live timing tower at a 1:33.9, so maybe some sort of issue possibly there for Tullow. He still has some opportunities to try and improve on that lap time. Whole lot of drivers running in this series have experience both in the sim and in real life. Here's Brian Straczynski, a driver who I've commentated on before. He runs Formula V's in real life. He is a pretty fast race car driver, currently P11 in this qualifying session, not terribly far off the back of Gerald in the 986 car, so we could see a battle between those two between now and the end of this qualifying session. Haven't even hit the halfway mark, Tim, and we have a decent amount of storylines, but I think that main one is the dominance of Tullow still at the front, half a second ahead of Jesus Rodriguez in P2. We'll see what Rodriguez can do now. Last time out at Laguna Seca, ran into a little bit of trouble, and he was in the midst of an intense battle from lights to flag, so I think Jesus Rodriguez may be trying to eye up a win against Tullow. Michelle Lynn, meanwhile, our reigning champion in the Spec 2 category here in this series. She's currently 4th in this qualifying session, another driver with experience of running Formula V's in real life. It's really nice to see these cars just be chucked around this track at terminal velocity. They are pushing it to the absolute limits, and I don't know about you, Tim, but it's really fun to watch.
It is, most certainly. Went fast as anyone in Sector 1 did Lynn, Ron, although saying that, yes, also personal best in Sector 4 as well. No improvement in 5. Let's see what it's going to be on the run to the line. I've got a feeling this could be an improvement from her. Only 0.04 a second behind Degasius at the moment. But she cuts the timing beam. Yeah, slight improvement in time, but not enough to, actually no, nothing to improve on that gap, just remaining as is. But for Tullow, still an improving one. Another one I need to mention about is this guy, Jim Brewster. Happy birthday to you, Jim. And there you go. We cut you just at the right moment. So he leaps up the leaderboard and goes 3rd fastest of anyone on track. I mean, what a way that could be to celebrate your birthday when walking away with a victory here in the Weekend Warriors.
And also, happy birthday to Hank Mell, who's currently 14th in this qualifying session. Hopefully, now that we've mentioned that's his birthday today as well, he could have a little bit of improved luck in this qualifying session. Over the halfway mark now, so these drivers starting what could be their final laps in this session. Tullow improved to a 1:43.870, so didn't actually get that 1:43.7 on the board. However, he has, I think, one more shot to try and get it done. I'll take a look look at my live timing tower to see exactly where he is out there on the racetrack. Not a whole lot of time left for him on this lap. I think he is going to be cutting the beam in the not too distant future, and we'll see what he does on this final lap for Thortula, the driver of the number 27 car, rounding his way around that final corner, going down that start finish not so straight straightaway. Is it an improvement for Thortula to try and improve his gap over Jesus Rodriguez in second across the line? And it is an improvement, a 143.656. Very well done from Tulo. Meanwhile, Montgomery has improved to a 144.448. Some drivers setting in some cookers of lap times. Their tires are getting up to temperature. They're feeling even more ambitious, heading their way around these corners. There's a final laps for a lot of these drivers, and they're pushing it to the absolute limit.
This could be a good lap. Purple in sector 1. Personal best sectors 2, 3, 4, and 5 for Brewster across the line. So wait for it to update. And, well, I think that's remaining as it is. Didn't quite catch the end of the lap. Actually, no, it is an improvement there, Ron. But just misses out on the front row by 0.03 of a second. I mean, look at the gap between Brewster and Montgomery. 0.02 of a second. It's classic Weekend Warriors time differential.
Yeah, it is a classic Weekend Warriors qualifying session. I remember from, I think, the Spec Racer Fords earlier on in this season, there was a tie in qualifying for pole as well. So just looking up and down the running order, this man, Guido Marzucchi, is currently only 1,000th of a second in front of Brian Straczynski. Incredibly close in this series, just looking up and down the running order. 2,000ths of a second between Brewster and Montgomery. 8,000ths of a second between Love and Gerard for P8 and P9, and then just as I said, 1,000th of a second between Marzucchi and Straczynski. Around this track, even though it isn't the longest in the world of racing, 1,000th of a second could be like 2 inches closer into an apex, so just no time at all separating these cars. I mean, from our perspective as commentators, Tim, can't really complain about that one bit, and if this is how close it is in the qualifying session, I think that's a pretty good showing of how things are going to be in the race coming up.
I'll have you know that 2 inches is a massive distance. Apparently so, some people say. This I feel is going to be a good lap from Marzucchi, the Italian. I think it'll be a bit disappointing at the moment with his qualifying down in 13th position. Looking to move up, and certainly by his I rating, if that's anything to go by, well down is the 19, and, well, a bit wide there. You want to be hugging that inside line all the way to the start-finish straight. Yeah, there we go, improved, but only by 1 position, Ron. Swapping around with Brian Hansen in the 771. These two have still got 1 lap left to go. This is one driver that's, well, I was going to say going to be completing his lap, but I don't know about you, Ron, but it sounds like he's run out of fuel.
Yeah, I think you may be right. Yeah, 0 RPM it looks like on the AIM Micron 5 little display screen that they have in these Formula V race cars. I guess he may have loaded the hill climb setup that they have here for, actually no, it's the soapbox derby setup in the world of iRacing, where it has you with like, what, 0.1 gallons of gas. So I think Jason Grider going to stumble his way into the pits. He's currently 7th in this qualifying session, which is pretty good lap time, and we'll see him slowly trundle his way.
Uphill just here. Has he got enough momentum? No, he hasn't.
Oh, no.
Pit lane. I mean, that doesn't make any difference. It's not real life. But, you know, we've got to keep half an eye on these things. You've got to have a bit of fun with it. And the Gassi is just, well, actually, no, he's already completed his allotted amount of laps. Just Hansen left to complete a lap. Gary Warbot, interestingly, though, for you, Ron, not appearing on the timing test, and that's because of his 2 laps that he completed. He had times deleted on both of them. So you mentioned about those track limits. Yes, another driver who's fallen. Well, I say another. A driver who has fallen foul of it. The other driver not set a time, incidentally. Hansen, though, I'm not sure about this one. He's gone green in sectors 1 and 4. Let's find out together as he runs to the line. Previous best was a 1:45.29. Well, there you go. 1:45.06. Upper place, displacing Marzucchi.
Yeah, pretty nice stuff from Brian Hansen in the dying stages of this qualifying session. And we got to keep our eyes to see if Wallbold is actually going to set a qualifying time. In the practice session earlier, he was at 1:45.304, which in this qualifying session would slot him right behind Guido Marzucchi and Nick Tulo. He would be slotted in P13, lucky number P13. However, I don't think he had any luck in this qualifying session, as he still has yet to set a qualifying time. I believe there's no cars out on track at the moment, Tim, so I don't believe he will be able to get a lap time in with just over a minute left to go in this qualifying session. I'm trying to look to see any other storylines that may develop between now and the end of this.
There are none, Ron. That you can keep looking, but you will not find one, unfortunately. So, to fill these 45 seconds, let's take a little look at what's coming up here on slow motion broadcasting across the next week. And, well, kicking things off tomorrow night, of course, the double-header of Weekend Warriors. First off, we head to Hockenheim in the Formula Fords before Spec Racer Fords. Well, make a trip to the Far East, to Okayama. Thursday nights, it's SimCar GT3 League, back 9 p.m. Eastern. There, it's the Algarve, or Portimao, as it's more commonly known to racing enthusiasts across the globe, shall we say.
I mean, me personally, I find the Portimao name to be a bit easier to pronounce, because whenever I say Algarve, I feel like I butcher the pronunciation every single time. But all three of those series incredibly entertaining here on Slow Motion. Got the wonderful chance to commentate on the SimCar series at Imola last time out, a 15-minute sprint followed by a 45-minute feature race, some GT3 action, and all sorts of action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. But today, the star of the show is a Formula V's, and let's take a look at the starting grid, Tim, for what is looking out to be a very entertaining 13-minute long race in these race cars. And it's Thor Tulo in that number 27 car. He's going to be leading them to green. Jesus Rodriguez is going to join him on the front row. The birthday boy Jim Brewster going to be starting this race in third. Chris Montgomery going to join him on the second row. Alan Degassis in fifth. Michelle Lynn in P6. Jason Grider in seventh. Andrew Love in eighth. David Gerard in P number 9. And Jeff Jacobson is going to round out your top 10. And we can look through the rest. Oh. Looks may have hit a bug, possibly. That could have been what happened to Michelle Lynn. Thankfully, her car is still clean, and she is going to be rolling off at the north end of the field. And speaking of, the field is about to grab the green in just a few moments' time. The Porsche pace car has made the turn to come down pit lane. The field is now back in the hands of Thor Tulo, who's going to be leading them to green in this 30-minute race, waiting for the green flag to come out, which it has now. The drivers are now on their way, barreling their way into turn number 1. We mentioned earlier on, it's going to be a challenge for all of these cars, especially on lap number 1. Everyone wants to lead here. Who is going to get that job done? Rodriguez with a pretty aggressive start. He is going to try and hold off any sort of challenge from Montgomery, who's looking to try and get some moves done. Jim Brewster and Michelle Lynn nearly going side by side, heading through turn number 2 to kick off this race. But up and down the field with some rally action for Michelle Lynn coming out of the hairpin of turn number 2. It's Thor Tulo leading it. Rodriguez in P2 and Montgomery in P3. Pretty much the entire field covered by barely any air. You can see a train, what feels like a non-stop train of Formula Vee race cars heading their way around the fourth turn now. A really tricky corner and a really important one as well, considering you don't even think about getting off the throttle until turn number 6, pretty much like a quarter of the track down the road. Very important to get a good exit coming out of that corner. I don't think Michelle Lynn got a very good exit, as she's now feeling some pressure from Alan DeGassis. They're going to be side by side heading through turn number 5, and you can see their love trying to get a move done around the outside. They single file out with Lynn still holding on to that P5 spot, but at the north end of the field it's broken up into a 2-2 fight, with Tulo and Rodriguez covered by less than 0.2 of a second heading their way through turn number 7 for the first time by, and Montgomery and Brewster also pretty close as well right behind. That is exactly right, Tim. We both have plenty of experience with the Weekend Warriors series, both here in the Formula V's and in the Formula Fords and Spec Racer Fords. So it's it tends to be quite hectic at the start, and whenever it is calm, it's usually leading to some sort of major crescendo later on in this race. A little bit less time than they have at their disposal in the Formula Fords and Spec Racer Fords. Only 30 minutes long, don't have to worry about a pit stop or anything like that. And at this point, all the drivers trying to stay within that tow. Once you lose the drift, your lap times tend to crater. So all these drivers looking to try and stay close to the cars in front of them. Maybe not pushing the issue too much at this point. They don't want to push the envelope so early on and get to some sort of trouble. So all these drivers trying to whittle away the laps. We're about to begin lap 3 with Tulo still in the lead. Rodriguez and P2 remaining in the same spots are our front row sitters. Some movers and shakers all up and down the field. Walbold, who did not set a qualifying time, has gotten 3 overtakes done, I believe, on Buttermore and Mel, and also Stasinski, who did not take the start and is out of it, sadly, here very early on into this race. But Rise, I said that they were taking a little bit easy. It looked like Montgomery was maybe trying to tease a move on Rodriguez heading into turn number 2. I nearly said he was going to sneeze a move. I'm not sure exactly what that would entail for Chris Montgomery. However, he's running in P3, and I think he is very confident in the speed in his race car. Just needs to keep to the back of Rodriguez and Tulo, and hope though there's some sort of drama up at the front of the field. We saw that at Laguna Seca last time out, and I feel like here at this track with some overtaking opportunities that aren't as easy to come by as there are at Laguna Seca, some of these drivers may be a little bit more aggressive towards the end of this race, as side by side with Love and DeGassis heading into 5.
It's close. It's a bit treacherous on the corner. Rex is just seeing Lynn run wide there, Ron. Not exactly what she wants. She wants to try and stay onto that train, as those top 4 are just starting to break away a little bit now. All in a line, all in orderly fashion there. She's closed that up there. But I tell you what, DeGassis is looking like a man on fire right now. These gaps incredibly close between so many of our drivers, averaging about a quarter of a second between each of them. So you can see one long train there, puffs of smokes as they go up through the gears. But again, we still remain as we are. And well, our top 2 have unchanged so far. Biggest climbers, as you mentioned earlier, Gary Warburg, he's up 3 spots. Other than that is Marzucci and Love, who are both up 2 each. Biggest loser, well, I say loser, biggest position losses come to Alan DeGassis and David Gerard, who are both down only 2 spots each. So still pretty even so far, as I say that. This looks at the 544 having a bit of a move up the inside run on Lynn. Can he make it stick? as they head out through Druids. I think that's going to be the move done.
Yes, it is the single file out heading through turn number 3. Love is very confident in his race car, just at the fastest lap of the race last time by. He is enjoying that draft. However, with that side-by-side action with himself and Lynn, it actually drove him back a little bit, now about a half a second, separating himself and Brewster for P4 and P5 respectively. Love cutting his way through the field like a hot knife through butter, now joining Wallbolt in that 3-position gain club. Currently Wallbolt down in 14th, Love up in 5th, actually losing a little bit of time to the back of Brewster, albeit that could be because Brewster has mightily closed up that front 4, covered by barely any air, about a half a second separating 4 race cars at this point, heading their way through the final sector of this lap. Turn number 6, they just went through now into turn number 7, a really tough corner where if you get the line just right, you would be able to take it flat out. However, some of these drivers may not risk it, especially considering how early on we are into this race. A small little trip into the grass and even the gravel trap on the outside can end in tears for any of these drivers. So I think they are taking it easy. I say that knowing fully well that every single time we've said that these drivers are trying to whittle away the laps, we usually see some sort of bonsai 3-wide overtake or attempted overtake in the first few corners of this race, of this lap, I should say. Rodriguez still running in P2. Now Love maybe trying to sneak a wheel around the outside of Brewster. He pulled out the slipstream though for sure, maybe trying to save up a run heading into turn number 2 in the 5th lap of this race. Love feeling really racy right now, and from what we've seen thus far, Tim, I feel like turn number 2 is proving itself to be a pretty good overtaking opportunity for these drivers.
Grider caught up in it, I know for definite. I think it was Michelle Lynn, the biggest loser. Yeah, there you go, still on the grass run. It's all gone wrong for her. Let's take a look at the replay, see if that can tell us exactly how this all unfolded, and there you go. Just too much mustard on it as she headed through Druids and then up against the barrier, trying to get it pointing in the right direction. And what looked like was going to be a really promising afternoon for her, as now, well, it means she's been demoted all the way down to 14th place. And now it's a bit of a roadblock in front of her. That's Gary Warbolt on the right, Nick Turner on the left. Hello, can we make a 2-for-1 deal here? Up the inside, thinks about it, has to back out of it though. That could have been very, very, well, another instant-filled moment for her as Warbolt blinking up, but she has picked up one of them. That's Nick Tullo, who she's got past, and that, well, lovely, lovely, classic JPS livery.
At this point, though, Michelle Lynn still has a whole lot of time to gain after she gets past Gary Wallbolt. If she does, there's another incident, this time involving Brian Hansen. Be careful here on the rejoin, Brian. Okay, doesn't collect any more cars as Buttermore goes for a spin as well, heading through the exact same corner. I just mentioned a few moments ago the challenging section of this track being the quick little switchback between 7 and 8. And I think we just saw a driver get called out by turn 8. It's so inviting with the banking helping you. Heading through that corner, you try and carry as much speed as you can. Unfortunately, Hansen getting bit by the bullet there. He spins out of a pretty good spot, but back up at the front of the field. And right as I was going to say that turn number 2 is going to be a good overtaking opportunity for these cars, it also turns out to be an opportunity to spin out of a decent position. Tough stuff for Michelle Lynn. I think it's 2 races in a row now that she's had a spin heading through a turn number 2 hairpin in this series, hoping to try and have a good run between now and the end of this. Already up to P11. However, she is going to have to put in some stormers of lap times between now and the end of this to make her way back up into the top 10. Right now, looking at Andrew Love still being the last car in this train at the front of the field. Tulo still leading it. Rodriguez and P2, Montgomery in 3rd, and Brewster in 4th. Love maybe saw some of the drama that happened right behind, as maybe taking it a little bit easy at this point. We're getting to that midway section of the race, Tim. 10 minutes in.
You say about him taking it easy. Did set on this lap the fastest sector 1 of anyone. So, you know, I mean, is he taking it easy? I don't think so. Based on that, and but equaling the time of everyone else in front of him. He's definitely up there on merits, and well, these guys in front are not getting away, so he's definitely still pushing. He's not taking it easy out there as we head out onto lap 7.
I feel like you can play me like a fiddle because, yeah, I mean, Love, he's still pushing that car. He's got the draft of 4 race cars in front of him, but he's still putting in some pretty good lap times last time by. Very quick compared to everyone else out there on the racetrack. These top 5 are pretty much in a dimension of their own when it comes to the lap times that they are setting. So they are still continuing to pull away from DeGassis and P6, now about 4.3 seconds back of this front pack fight. But I think when I said that Love was taking it easy, I feel like he's not really pushing the issue too much when it comes to getting a move done on the likes of Brewster, Montgomery, Rodriguez, and Tulo, and a little
2
bit
laps
farther
in a
up the
row.
road.
Guess who's just set the fastest sector one of anyone again? It's Andrew Love.
Trying to prove me wrong.
One moment, you're going to laud praise on him the next lap, and you watch, he won't do it, and something you'll put the curse of the commentator onto him. So clearly, this is what you're doing here, Ron. It's the reverse psychology of the curse of the commentator that you're putting onto Andrew Love. Hence why he's going faster and faster, well, faster than anyone in Sector 1 right now. That's how we're playing this. That's going to be our legitimate. Hank Mel's just made a pass, though, over Wayne Buttermore, I've seen further down from the field. Let's take a little look how... Actually, no, maybe he hasn't. It was just a blinking out issue. Although, got... Marzucci is coming off track, although, yeah, he's not really dropped any place. He's still up 2 places from where he started, though, Ron, interestingly. But we've got a bit of a battle merging over 6th place. Alan DeGassius and Jeff Jakeson all over one another. And, in fact, I'd say Jeff Jakeson could try and sling one up the inside here.
He very well could. We'll just have to wait and see if he goes for the move heading into turn number 2, trying to maximize a run coming out of turn 1. Got that uphill run, really important to get a run in these race cars with not a whole lot of power at your disposal. Not close enough to get that move done, and he had a pretty significant curb whack hang through turn number 1. He'll look to try and not repeat that throughout the rest of this race because I feel like too many curb whacks, regardless of what kind of open wheel car you're running, and you are playing with fire when it comes to running over the curbs in these types of race cars. So Jacobson at this point maybe trying to avoid the curbs a little bit, touch them ever so slightly. However, you don't want to slam into them, otherwise you are going to be in a whole lot of trouble. The gap actually increasing between the two of them, now about 3.5 tenths of a second, going down though. He got a very good run. DeGassis had a bad run coming out of turn 4 and onto this back flat out blast. Now they're gonna be single file yet again, hang through turn at number 5. However, it looks like Jacobson is going to have a whole lot of speed in that number 40, trying to get the move done on the number 4 car. They're going to be still line astern, about to head their way through turn 7 right about now. Jacobson may be trying to size up a move here in the not too distant future. But again, it goes back to the point, are these drivers going to try and go for a bonsai overtake, or are they going to try and have a bit more of a level-headed approach when it comes to overtaking their competitors so early on?
I think it's almost like he's trying to employ the mind punt here, Ron, where he just sits constantly onto the back of someone oh so close, almost cigarette papers distance separating the pair of you. Just trying to force a mistake out of them. No intention of passing them. Just keep that pressure up. Although you can see there, DeGassis is looking a lot more comfortable and confident coming into turn 1 compared to Jacobson.
And it goes back to the point that we mentioned of turn 1 being a real trouble spot in these Formula V race cars. Really, that corner, at least from my perspective, albeit there's a very good reason why I'm in the broadcast booth and not behind the wheel, I always have a whole lot of trouble trying to size up turn 1 because it's just so hard to try and figure out where the grip is number 1 and where is the best line and where is the best place to put your race car. David Gerald putting himself in a good position, getting a move done on Jason Grider, heading into Druids at turn number 2. Nicely played from the driver of the 986 car to move up a position. Pretty textbook stuff there, and now we've got a fight side by side with Jacobson and DeGassis. They're heading their way through turn number 5 right now, playing with fire a little bit, heading side by side through the fastest corner on this racetrack. Jacobson backing out of it. Did he back out of it, or was he just not able to get the move done? I think it was a 50-50 case there, but Jacobson proving that he has a fast race car. And you mentioned a few moments ago, Tim, mind games can play a role in these races. You always want to psych out your competitors, whether it go for a bonsai move or just sitting in the rear view mirror of your competitors to remind them at all times that, hey, you're still there and you can do whatever you want at any given time. I think Jacobsen at this point knows that he has a fast race car. We'll just have to see if he can get that move done on DeGassis in the not-too-distant future. Really, the chances, though, of them catching up to the front five, they've diminished. Now that gap is extending to about 6 seconds starting lap 10 for the drivers running in P6 and P7. So at this point, their fight is really between themselves, but they can't race too hard, Tim, because they've got Gerald and Grider right behind, looking to pick up the pieces if they come to blows.
They're lapping at about 6 to 7 tenths slower than our lead group of these two right now. But more crucially, they, based on the last lap, although it wasn't overtake involved between Gerard and Grider, they are still running faster than what they are, to the tune of, about 6 tenths of a second. So it's heading in this, although it's not catching them up, it is heading them in the right direction. As that's the 902 of Gary Walbolt off. What's happened there?
And that's coming out of turn number 3. I'm curious if he dipped a wheel off into the grass on corner exit and possibly lost it. Here's a replay. Pretty significant curb whack sends him wide, goes into the dirt, and just takes a one-way trip to that outside tire barrier. Thankfully, not too big of an impact, and these Formula V race cars are not the most aero-sensitive race cars in the world, if we're being brutally honest. However, he's towed back to the pits, so Gary Walbolt falling out of this race. Really the first incident outside the spin for this woman, Michelle Lynn, earlier on. Walbolt, the first, I wouldn't say casualty from this race. However, that's the first bit of wall contact that we've seen thus far. And coming out of turn number 3, I can't tell whether that's a shock or not. What do you think, Tim?
I don't know, Ron. Hey, well, in some ways, I'd say yes, but then others not. I mean, because it's just average Weekend Warriors scenarios. But I've just glanced my eyes, Ron, across to the clock. We are... 17 and a half minutes into this half-an-hour-long motor race. And, we're starting to get into the real... we're well into the second half now. Starting to get the real business end. People got to start thinking about, certainly this lead group here. Of, okay, right, when do I make my move? Now, in a true hare and tortoise scenario and, story, Ron... and keeping that theme going. The first ever race at Brands Hatch was between people on bicycles versus cross-country runners. Okay? Do you know who won?
I have absolutely no idea.
Wow.
Montgomery just got moved on to slip his way into P2, but inform me with this piece of trivia.
It was, in fact, the cross-country runners, which just goes to show, it's hare and tortoise mentality. You've got to be there, and she's going to keep chipping away. And that's what I think a few of these guys are, despite seeing that move from Montgomery there. But I think that's what they're just seeing, the mentality that's being played within this league group right now. It's a bit, and also a bit like a game of poker. Nobody's wanting to show their hand at the moment. At the moment, no. I get the feeling that's just going to change very, very soon, as we're 11 minutes exactly remaining here from Brands Hatch, and I think because around about we're 143 per lap. I reckon in about 2 laps time, someone's going to light the touch paper because they're going to look at the clock and they're going to think, oh, right, I've got 5 minutes left. That's not a lot of laps. I've got about 2.5 laps left. Right, I need to start making some move. Certainly, Brewster and Love. They're the two to watch out for at the tail end of this group. And you can see Brewster just starting to just sense out a bit of a move. Put the feelers out there on Jesus Rodriguez in that 76 of what he's going to do. How will he react? And they need to start asking these questions a little bit, right about now, really, so that when they come to make their moves, they know the answer of what it's going to be. Chris Montgomery not only making a position on the last lap run, also setting the fastest lap of the race. He's a man on the move, Mike Rao.
I was just going to mention that all these drivers have their own strengths and weaknesses as side-by-side hang through turn number 5. Heading into turn number 5 is Rodriguez and Montgomery. Rodriguez getting that move done to slip his way back up into the runners-up position. But all these drivers have their own strengths and weaknesses at this point, all of them very fast. That is clear as we take a look at a replay of an incident involving Wayne Buttermore heading into turn number 2, hitting that curb quite significantly in contact, got spun around by Hank Mel. A little bit of contact, a bump and run in Formula V race cars doesn't really work. It's more nose cone to transmission in the back of these race cars, or gearbox, whatever sort of nomenclature you would like to use. Jason Grider, I think, has had some sort of office. He's just lost another position. I think he was running in 9th not very long ago. However, he is dropping down the running order. Yeah, Jason Grider has had an off, and here is the replay of it. Coming through turn number 6, hits that gravel trap, goes for a wild ride, and he's going to hit that wall. That was a significant impact, and that also breaks the left front suspension on that Formula V race car. Tough stuff for Jason Grider. He was putting on a very good show. I haven't really talked about him too much on this broadcast. However, he falls out of it and is going to be the second driver to hit the wall and possibly the third driver to leave this session. Gary Wobold has left. He's going to end up in P16, and Stasinski never took the start. He is going to be in P17. But right now, back in the north end of the field, Tulo is still leading. And getting back to the point I was going to mention before the chaos broke out involving Mel, Buttermore, and also the incident with Grider, all these drivers have their own strengths and weaknesses at this point. Tulo, he's led from lights to flag. He took the pole in this race, and he was a front runner last time out at Laguna Seca. He is very fast in these race cars, really fast in basically every single kind of race car that Thor Tulo, the driver of that number 27 car, gets in. He has been the Pied Piper so far, and he'll try and carry that streak through in the final 8-ish minutes of this race. Then you've got Jesus Rodriguez. He's our championship leader, and in pretty commanding fashion as well. Is he going to try and go for it, knowing fully well that his championship gap is substantial, or is he going to try and play it calm and maybe let some drivers running around him get involved in some sort of incident so he can sneak out with the W? Montgomery as well set the fastest lap of the race not very long ago, got that move done on Rodriguez, but right as I say that, the commentators jinx he runs wide coming out of turn number 8, and that's going to cost him a spot on Love and Brewster. It actually cost him 2 positions. So right as I was going to praise Montgomery, saying that he has a fast race car, he has some small little mistake that's going to drop him down the running order. Love and Brewster, meanwhile, they have been in the tow, and they've seen all these drivers try and do their own maneuvers. They definitely have something cooking behind the wheel of those FV race cars, as Montgomery gets that move done to get back in front of Andrew Love. This fight that we see right now between Montgomery and Love may turn this fight from a 5-on-5 fight versus a 3-2 affair. What do you think, Tim?
I don't think so, Ron. They're just about holding on tight right now and remaining in the fight as Tree's getting in the way of that lovely cinematic camera shot there for us. But I said about it, didn't I? You know, need to start asking these questions now. So when we get down to these last couple of laps, which we're not far away from, Ron, you know the answers. You know how they're going to react, what they're going to do, where can you break them? Or outbreak them, as the case may be, in more of the literal sense rather than the metaphorical outbreak. But still, Portolo, well, he's on course. Well, he not quite for a Grand Chelem, Ron, because he won't have the fastest lap. But so far, he qualified on pole, and he's led every lap. Now, odds-wise, you'd say, yeah, he's in a good chance of winning this. But realistically, if someone's going to take the fight to him, it's going to come from Rodriguez or Brewster. Sorry, Birthday Boy Brewster, to give him by his full official name, in that 133. So, who's it going to be, though? I mean, or can anyone catch him? Yeah, the only reason why everyone's staying in touch with him is because of the draft. I don't know, but we're not far away from finding out. We're going to know in the next 5.5 minutes.
Honestly, I feel like the end of this race is going to be really hard to predict. 5.5 minutes left on that clock. Not a whole lot of laps left for these drivers. Not a whole lot of overtaking opportunities left as well. Really, turn number 2 and turn 5 going down that back straightaway have been the main spots for these drivers. It's all about Tulo, though. Is he going to be able to defend from the drivers right behind? Will he possibly get overwhelmed? It's one thing to have a very good set of cards in your hand. It's another one to know how to play them. And which of these drivers is going to be able to play their cards exactly right to sneak out with the win from this 8th race of the season. Tulo still leading at Rodriguez in P2. That gap is coming down a little bit. I don't think Tulo got the best of exits going down onto this back straightaway. Now going down the hill, about to head their way into turn number 5. Love actually losing out on a whole lot of time. He's now 1 second back of Montgomery, so I think this fight has really broken up into a 4-car affair. Tulo, Rodriguez, Brewster, and Montgomery are going to be the ones to keep our eyes out for. And getting back to the point of trying to predict how this race is going to end, there's a whole lot that can happen. We still have laps on the board. We still have time left on the clock. And for all we know, we could see these drivers end up wrecking out. We could end up seeing the likes of DeGassis and Jacobson fight for the win if these drivers come to blows. We've seen some incidents so far in this race. These drivers all know each other. They know their strengths and advantages, and they're going to try and capitalize on the weaknesses that they know from their competitors. But for the drivers behind this man, Thor Tulo, they're trying to find a weakness at this point. He's extending that gap yet again in front of Jesus Rodriguez. I feel like the favorite probably coming into the dying stages of this race is probably going to be Tulo, as Rodriguez and Brewster going side by side heading into turn number 1. I think Brewster is going to get that move done on him. Yes, he does. Very nicely played from Brewster, and Montgomery looking to try and get a move done on Rodriguez as well. They're going to be side by side heading through the hairpin of turn number 2. Rodriguez running out a little bit into the dirt. However, he has that inside line heading into 3, but Montgomery gets the move done running off into the dirt as well. These drivers don't care about the track limits anymore. They're going to use every single inch of surface to their disposal in the dying stages of this race. I feel like we're setting ourselves up for a grandstand finish. What do you think, Tim?
You're absolutely spot on, but this is playing right into Tulo's hands, Ron, because all this battling and infighting behind them, well, it's just helping extend his lead. As you see, Montgomery having to defend from Rodriguez there, just covering it off, saying to him, no, 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 you're not coming past here, my friend. And again, but they are closing in on Tulo. They've just taken 2 tenths out of him, Ron. It's coming together very, very nicely. Now, when they come across the line, it might be white flag. It's going to be very, very close as to whether we go 1 extra lap. You can see a little bit of traffic on the horizon there. That is Jason Grider they're coming up onto the back of, who's down in 15th place at an eventful race. As Andrew Love there out onto the grass, Ron. Let's have a look. There's no white flags, so we're going another lap here, Ron. How many of these drivers out here have calculated and allowed for that? I'm not sure. We're about to find out who's got enough fuel on board.
That is going to throw a huge wrench in the works in this fight, as Rodriguez trying to get the move done on Montgomery to slip his way back up into the podium positions. Well done from Andrew Love as well to catch up that 1 second gap. But side by side yet again, heading into turn number 3, Jesus Rodriguez going to lose out on that battle with himself and Montgomery, and going to lose out on another spot with Love now going side by side with him. Love actually trying to get the 2-for-1 deal, and you can see Rodriguez going for an aggressive move back on Montgomery. That was some bold stuff from the championship leader behind the wheel of that 76 car. However, in that hard battling, they have completely lost touch of Tulo and Brewster a little bit farther up the road. Currently about 1.2 seconds separating those two, with now 9 tenths coming up to 8 tenths of a second separating Tulo and Brewster right now. I feel like this race has definitely changed in the past 30 seconds. They're going to be taking the white flag this time by Tim. But with that battling involving Love, Rodriguez, and Montgomery, very hard battling at the beginning of this lap, I feel like that just played into the hands of Tulo and Brewster beautifully there.
Massively, Ron, massively. It's whether Brewster can catch Tulo, and I don't think he can. I just think he's not got enough time left on it. And for Tulo's broken the draft in that 27. This could become a dogfight. Actually, more of a street fight of who is going to finish third. Will it be Love? Will it be Rodriguez? Or Montgomery? White flag in the air, Ron. 1 lap to go. Let's find out.
Alrighty, here we go. They're going to be single file heading into turn number 1. It looked like Jesus Rodriguez was maybe trying to sneak a wheel down the inside of Andrew Love, but just wasn't close enough to get the move done. I don't think there's going to be a street fight, though. I think it is going to be similar to a fight that you'd see in a high school bathroom. There is going to be some hair pulled, and there is going to be some tension on the final lap of this race. All these drivers, they've raced against each other before. They know each other well. However, when it comes to the race, and the race for the final podium spot, it is all business out there on the racetrack. Love is going to hold on to that spot coming onto the back straightaway for the final time. He really needs to maximize his run going onto this back flat out blast. Otherwise, he may get shuffled out of that P3 spot. Here comes Montgomery and Rodriguez. Is any of these drivers going to try and get a move done? Yes, you can see maybe trying to make it 3 wide. No, not yet. Rodriguez trying to get that move done on Love, and Montgomery looking to shuffle him back as well. Montgomery not able to clear Love heading into turn number 5. They're going to be side by side through 6. One of these drivers is going to have to back out, but neither of them do. Love running all the way out to the gravel on corner exit. These drivers are racing these cars as hard as they possibly can, but it's looking good for Jesus Rodriguez to round out your podium in 3rd. Actually, no, I say that. Love maybe trying to sneak a wheel down the outside, heading through turn at number 8 and making contact as well. We got a beautiful view inside of Love's cockpit heading through turn number 8. It looks like that is going to stay line astern, but meanwhile, at the north end of the field, Thortulo, in a dominating performance here from the Formula Vee Weekend Warrior Championship, is going to end up winning it, but the fight between Rodriguez and Love, those two were nearly banging wheels coming to the line. It's going to be a photo finish between the two of them, and it looks like it's going to be Jesus Rodriguez winning it. 0.037 of a second separating Rodriguez and Love after over 30 minutes of racing action. We always expect photo finishes from the Weekend Warriors series, and we definitely got one here in the Formula V's. Montgomery right behind in 5th, but this man Thortulo taking a dominating victory, and ended up being about 2 seconds between himself and Jim Brewster when that checkered flag came out. Dominant from Thortulo. That, I think, is the only way you can describe his performance today.
Victory weave there ongoing. I mean, what a finish though, Ron. Never fails to, underestimate me. It's almost NASCAR stuff, isn't it? 2 attempts separating our top 3. With that 3rd place separated only by 0.04 of a second. Fine margins, Ron. Fine margins as always, but I mean, well, after all that fighting started happening behind him, you didn't really see anyone other than this man, Thortulo, running away with the victory. I mean, dominant display once he got out in front. Nobody could touch him, and, well, what can we say? Great result from him. Great drive. Led every single lap. Didn't get the fastest lap to make the Grand Chelem, but completed 3 parts out of the 4.
I mean, hey, you can't really be too upset with that performance. I'm sure he is not trying to do some donuts now in this Formula Vee. He did a small little burn at it. It put some eyebrows down on the exit of turn number 7. But Thortulo, he is definitely delighted with his performance. Don't get too racy here on this cooldown lap. Thor, we may see end up in the wall. I mean, of all the times to end up in the wall, though, the cooldown lap is probably the only acceptable point in this race. But as Thortulo goes on to that start-finish straightaway to maybe treat us to some donuts, I think we'll see if we have a smoke show from Tulo. Oh, he ends up in the dirt. Not going to... Actually, may help out his chances a little bit of doing a donut. There we go. Burning it down, and he stays out of the wall as well. Would it really be considered a donut here in these Formula Vee race cars, or considering their low power, would it be more of a dough? I am not too sure, but here are the results from today's Formula Vee Weekend Warriors race at Brands Hatch. It ends up being the Japanese driver Thortulo taking the checkered flag, 1.7 seconds between himself and birthday boy Jim Brewster at the end of this race. Jesus Rodriguez, our championship leader coming into this round, is going to finish in P3. Then That's Andrew Love and Chris Montgomery rounding out your top 5. Ellen DeGassis in 6th. Jeff Jacobson in 7th. David Gerard in P number 8. And that's going to be Michelle Lynn on a very good recovery drive in P9. Guido Marzuki going to round out your top 10. That's going to be Brian Hansen, Hank Mel, Wayne Buttermore, Nick Tulo, Jason Grider, Gary Walbold, and Brian Straczynski rounding out the 17 cars classified in this race. Gary Walbold did not see the checkered flag. Brian Straczynski did not see the green flag, and Jason Grider got involved in an incident as the only car to see the checkered flag, not on the lead lap. So those are your results from today's hectic and very exciting Brands Hatch Formula Vee race. And Tim, I think we have some drivers waiting in the interview waiting area. Would you like to have a chat with the birthday boy?
I'd love to. Well, congratulations, Jim Brewster, second in the end there. What can we say about? I mean, how relieved were you when you saw them behind you all start scrapping away?
A bar fight broke out. I saw it. I said, "Well, see, you could tell Chris was in a fighting mood, and Jesus is always in a fighting mood, and so I was hoping once I got past them." You know, those guys are both, you know, after you make a pass, they're going to go right after you again to get you back. And so if you can get, you know, a lap or so, and then once I got the two of them, I got Chris and Jesus behind me. I said, hopefully they can take care of each other. And then Andrew jumped in the fight, and next thing you know, a bar fight broke out. But what do you think? That you can't imagine how tense those first 16 laps were. Those are like perfect laps. There's a couple places you could breathe and let off. At the end of the back straightaway going up the hill, you could breathe. But those other corners and other places, you had to be perfect, or else they're getting away from you. And these guys are fast, and I'm just thrilled to be able to hang with them with a little bit of help of the draft. Thor kicked our butts. He says he's getting ready. He's got his real V going. He's going to Brands here in a couple of weeks, and he said that was just practice for him. You saw he kicked our butts in qualifying.
He did. It was. I mean, I think you've partly answered that question. Really, how much was it? The draft was keeping you in the fight and with them versus just not making the mistakes was allowing you to stay in touch with Thor, who was, well, I mean, led every lap, was absolutely dominant here today.
Well, see, we could have fought from the beginning, right? And you know, Formula V race is about cooperation, and I said it on the grid. You know, let's cooperate and put on a show, and not just splinter the whole place into 14 different pairs of cars. And so we were definitely cooperating because that's how V's race. You stay in line, and you could stick your nose out. And there's places you can stick your nose out. There's places I'm sure Jesus could have stuck his nose inside Tor, but he knew that if he made a mistake, see, it's really funny. I knew if I went after Chris, then Tor and Jesus would bust away. Chris knew if he went after Jesus, then Tor could run away. So it was in our best interest to stay in line up to a point, and then at some point you make that decision. All right, it's time to go for it.
Definitely. Well, you chose right. Maybe not quite as well as what you could have done, to snatch victory, but that would have been incredibly challenging from position you're in. But even so, second here today. Congratulations.
It's not just my birthday, but it's my 65th birthday. So I'm officially saying I'm officially old as dirt. So believe me, this is a great way to celebrate. When we qualified, I was 2000s ahead of Chris. And Chris goes, I said, Chris, you don't look very rusty. And he said, you see those 2000s, Jim? He goes, happy birthday.
There you go. Can't argue with that one. Can't argue
nice
with that
guys,
one. With age
nice guys,
experience.
fun guys, and fast guys.
Definitely.
I hope it was a great show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope the audience showed it, and we'll see you guys again soon. I think we're going to see you for sure in Lime Rock in week 12.
I believe so.
Our benevolent sponsor, Michelle, has sponsored that one up, and we switched the track from GP to the Classic, so we don't have to put up any chicanes. We're going to do old school style Formula V fighting on week 12.
Fantastic.
So if we don't see you till then, it's great.
Well, it's been absolutely
and I'll see you tomorrow.
Well, yes, undoubtedly. Congratulations, Jim Brewster. There, finished second.
Did Mr. Ron practiced with us all night last night, and he did good. So I hope that helped his commentary and knowledge of the track.
Oh, definitely.
You got to come out and join us, Tim. You got to come join us on a Friday night. It's very casual.
I would do, but my rig's currently in storage at the moment. Has been for a little while, but that's due to change soon. So don't you worry. I'll be there soon, Jim. Don't you worry.
Very good. Thanks for everything.
No worries, Jim.
And thanks to Stevie. Oh, remember this Tuesday, sign on. Stevie is going to be on the YouTubes on Tuesday night at 9:00 with the first Racing Line podcast.
Yes.
So that's big news, for us Weekend Warriors world, Ray Esports world, Tuesday night.
Where's that being broadcast on, Jim? Go on, have a good
Well,
plug.
it's a podcast, and I think it's on YouTube. I'm not sure. Check with the Ray Esports or Weekend Wars. He's got notes on it in different places.
Okay.
But I think he's got a great thing going. We love to combine, like today. Tor kicked our butts. He's a real world racer. He's also a weekly sim racer, and we're just trying to combine these worlds of sim racing and real racing because they really are very similar. If only the management of those two groups would figure it out and join hands and sing Kumbaya, we'd all be better off.
Definitely. I'm sure they'll get their act together one day. But congratulations, Jim. 2nd place here today.
You bet. See ya.
See you soon. Well, Ron, what can we say? Another absolute classic. As mentioned there, just another refresher for you all. Coming up on the channel, Formula Fords from the Weekend Warriors tomorrow night, 1:45 Eastern, or if you're a proper time zone, that is 6:45 Greenwich Mean Time, the country that invented time. Then later in the evening at 8:45, it is the Spec Racer Fords to take to the track at Okayama. That's always an epic combo, so that'll be an epic race. I just know it already. For Simcars back on Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, from the Algarve with their GT3 League. Well, Ron, what can we say? What did we learn today? Well, we learned that the Weekend Warriors is just another just the Weekend Warriors. That's the only best way to describe it.
Yep, the Weekend Warriors are always going to be exciting. The Weekend Warriors going to Weekend Warriors every single week here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. And as Jim Brewster pointed out, even before I could here on this broadcast, a friendly reminder that this race was brought to you by Michelle Lynn, and the brand new show coming here to Slow Motion Broadcasting, I believe. If not, it's on the Ray Esports YouTube channel, the Racing Line podcast, talking about the world of sim and real life racing with some very special guests. The Racing Line premieres, I believe it's actually this Thursday on August the 8th, so you can tune into that here wherever it is. But this race was absolutely incredible, and as Jim also pointed out on that broadcast, gonna be Lime Rock on August the 31st when this series returns here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. That is going to be a good one. Lime Rock always puts on some good shows, some old school racing at an old school track, and we're gonna have some old school fun that week in the not too distant future in the grand scheme of time. But Tim, it was a pleasure being back here with you on this series. I'm sure that upcoming race at the end of the month is going to be a really fun one. Part of the fun action that we have here on Slow Motion pretty much every single week. And again, it gives you more reason to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss a thing. But I think for this broadcast, that will just about do it. So for myself, Ron Maunz, and Tim Cox doing a wonderful job joining me in the commentary booth and also having his duplicated self working on the cameras in the virtual production hauler, I say thank you all so very much for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you all again wherever it is in the not too distant future.
I see a Budweiser. Go ahead and hold it up.
Yes. There's
that was
our
the biggest clue.
Yes, right
Doing
there.
it for Dale.
Man, it's so many gimmicks, right? I feel like they're making it a lot more complicated than it needs to be. I mean, a lot of people, you get polarizing opinions on DRS.
I know you guys know exactly what I'm talking about here, but sometimes the effort, it's all about the boys. Like, hey,
It is.
Life sucks sometimes, and you
Yes.
boys.
iRacing kind of always has a tendency to kind of buff
Yes.
the new cars just a little bit. I'm not going to go on record saying it's because they want people to spend money on their platform and buy all the new
Conspiracy
content.
confirmed.
But
Yes.
but